went through a couple different things there. So we're going to pick that up today, and we're going to start. Some of these are going to be very familiar. So we're going to start with the one that's probably most familiar, and that's gossip. So gossip is spreading of unfavorable information about someone else, even if it's true, often based on rumor. So the first question I have, because Connie and I have talked about this, can gossip be disguised in the form of a prayer request? And why? Or how does that work? This came up with Connie and I because she would attend certain women's prayer groups, and she stopped going because the prayer requests ended up turning into a gossip fest. And it makes it difficult to think that this is a prayer gathering when somebody gives a prayer request and then it turns into gossip. So how do you deal with somebody that's gossiping? What do you do with them? You guys must not run into too many people that gossip.
I don't know if that's it. We don't run into too many people like that. But a lot of times they are people that we personally know, they're friends or whatever. And how do you tell somebody they're doing something wrong without, you open that door to where all of a sudden they take offense to it and
Right.
it damages a relationship. So you start evaluating, well, how bad is it gossip? What kind of level is this coming to or whatever?
Yeah.
But I do think it's in some cases it's important to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. And you're right. I think there can be different levels of gossip. There's some that can be more damaging than others when you're talking about somebody, especially if that person's not there. So now you're spreading, like I said, potentially rumors about a person that you all know that isn't there to defend themselves whether or not this is true or not.
I also think one of the things, you know somebody that is, tends to really thrive on gossiping about other people, they're doing that while you're sitting there about people that aren't sitting there. Well, when you're not sitting there, who are they gossiping about?
Yeah.
Because people like that, they don't really draw a line in the sand. Who's up for gossip this week?
Right.
Wherever
Yeah.
wherever it may land.
Yeah.
And then you start being very careful about what you talk about in front of them.
Right. Yeah, because you never know. Generally, like you said, or I said too, that gossip is going to happen about somebody who's probably not present.
Oh, almost all the time.
Yeah. Again, that person can't even defend themselves on that. Yeah. So that makes it tough. Yes, Steve, did you want to say something? No? Okay. All right. Okay. So then we'll move on from gossip because that's the lower rung of where we're going. The next one he talks about is slander. So slander is making false statements or misrepresentations about another person that damages their reputation. Even though I think gossip can damage somebody's reputation, slander takes it a little step further. As Christians, we can slander when we question another believer's commitment or misrepresent their stance on a subject. So we have to kind of be careful with that too, that we're not looking at somebody and saying, well, they don't do this or they don't do that, and they should be, and in the church, slander is done to gain an advantage over somebody. was an interesting statement that he made, and I was kind of thinking about that one. All right, who are we trying to gain an advantage over? You know, but then I thought about it, and I thought, well, there's always the person that says, well, I'm more righteous than that person, or I'm more holy than that guy over there. So, yeah. But
Is slander always something that is not true about somebody else?
usually, it's very rare that it's not. Gossip, on the other hand, could be true and might not be true. But slander, he's basically, the way he's describing it is that it's a misrepresentation.
Okay.
So it could be true, but it might not be true. But it's something that will damage that person's reputation. Yeah. So, who do you think would most likely be the person in a church that would get slandered? Would get misrepresented? It could damage their reputation.
Pastor.
Yeah, exactly. The pastor.
I think I know someone personally who did that.
Really?
The last church I was in.
Okay.
I don't know the whole story.
Right.
Because they didn't share anything.
Right.
From
And
what I was seeing, it was just a family attack on the pastor.
yeah. And oftentimes that's the case. You don't know the whole story. You know, there could be more to it or what have you. But oftentimes, if people aren't happy with something the pastor's doing, we had a dear friend who was pastoring a church, and he decided to change the Bible they were using. They were using the King James, and he wanted to change all the Bibles to the NASB. Well, that caused a firestorm. And things got worse and worse, and eventually he ended up leaving that church because of all the things that were coming back at him or being talked about him, and it just wasn't a good situation. So yeah, he had told us about that. But yeah, usually it's the pastor that's going to get the most attention on this, as opposed to someone in the congregation. Or it could be anybody who's in a leadership position in the church. I mean, it could be the youth pastor, it could be the lead pastor, it could be the person in charge of music. You know, somebody doesn't like the music, I want to do hymns, and they don't, you know, and blah, blah, blah. So, it's usually somebody in a position of, to use the term power in a church. Authority, thank you. That's the better word, yeah. So, but this slander leads back to critical speech, because generally, if they're slandering the pastor or whoever, they're making negative comments about somebody that, again, may or may not be true. So, but they're not directing that critical speech at the person. It's being done to other people. So in other words, they're not going to the pastor and slandering him. They're going to you and talking about him, different things that he may or may not have done. So, so what would you do if somebody came to you and started slandering Pastor Kirk or Pastor Joe? What would you do with that person?
Let's go talk to Pastor Joe.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. If you're that upset, let's go talk to the pastor. See what he has to say. But most of the times, they won't want to do. Yeah, exactly. They won't want to do that. Yeah. Exactly. You'll see that look on their face, like, no, I can't do that. Yeah. So it's easy for us to get caught up in sins of the tongue, especially gossip, or those little white lies that get told. You know, of course, the little white lie is no big deal, but yes, it is, because that leads to other things. And then there are other sins of the tongue, such as harsh words, sarcasm, insults, and ridicule. And that can happen. Oftentimes, well, here's an example. In the work environment, have you ever had somebody throw harsh words or insults at you from someone else in the company?
Yeah.
What happened?
I just let it go,
Okay.
but I work in a butcher shop, and there's one person that won't let me look at, and everybody's supposed to be able to look at the worksheet and see what's being done.
Right.
And I wanted to look at the worksheet. Well, I asked, well, it started off, I'm trying to think how it started off, but in a matter of 5 minutes, 3 people made a comment to me like I don't know what I'm doing. And it just made me feel like I wanted to leave. It's actually the department that I was in. And I got into another section where I'm back in a corner where basically I work by myself.
Okay.
But they were in need of help, so they asked me to go out and help run this big vac machine. Somebody said something about the cuts of meat, and I said, I knew what it was. It's called, I made the boxes of 8. The cow gets divided into 8 sections. 8 people get a part of the cow.
Okay.
And they had cubes, and I made sure that there were 16 bags of cubes, because I knew each box got 2 bags of cubes. Everything is multiples of 8, so it's either 8, 16, or 32, according to what kind of steak is put in. And I made a comment, and I said something to Debbie. I said, are all 16 bags here? And I counted the bags. I said, there's only 15 here. And she's like, that'll be taken care of. And Don turns around, so they gotta make sure there's 16 1 pound, or roughly 1 pound of cubes in
Right.
each one. And Don goes, oh, you really didn't know what you were talking about. Like, okay. So I had 2 comments within 3 minutes. And the third one, I asked the end person, I said, do you have the flat iron steak? I said, are there 8 flat iron steaks or 16? And he goes, what's that to you? I wanted to make sure that all 8 of them or 16, depending on who orders what. I wanted to make sure the count was correct when I keep track of the count when we're doing those 8. It's called 8 boxes of
Okay.
beef. I try to make sure he gets them all in a row, rather than 5 here and 3 later on. I try to make sure all of them are there at the same time. And the end person that counts them and puts them in the box, he goes, that's not. I asked him a question, I just kind of looked at him, what are you looking at? I said, is there 8? I said, are there 8 flat iron steaks, or is it 16? He goes, what difference does that make? Well, I wanted to make sure it was correct and what to look for. So in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I felt like a
Yeah.
peon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that slander, or is that criticizing, or
It's probably a little bit of harsh words and insult at the same time.
it was all
Yeah.
within a 5-minute period?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's usually the effect of something like that it makes you feel
Not
small
wanted.
or
Not wanted.
not wanted, or like you said, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Even though you've been on that job and you know what you're doing, it still makes you feel. And it's even worse if it comes from a boss. Even though you've done everything right, and the boss comes in and starts, throwing insults or harsh words at you or whatever, ridiculing what you're doing, and now you feel even worse because now it's the boss instead of just another employee. Because sometimes if it's another employee, I'll be like Gary, he can just be like, nah. You know, it's another employee, what do I care? But when it comes to the boss, that's a whole different story. So, all right. So that's pretty much all he had for sins of the tongue. I'm surprised he didn't have more, because to me, they seem like the most, for lack of a better word, popular respectable sins is sins of the tongue. Especially things like gossip. And I'm surprised he didn't go into, which surprised me, he didn't go into like libel, which is even a step further than slander and that type of thing, but he didn't. So there's some areas where I thought he did a really good job, and there's some areas where I disagreed with him on things. This is one that I kind of was like, okay, well, I don't think you took it far enough with the sins of the tongue, but that's what he did. So, so any other comments or questions regarding sins of the tongue? So, I think the worst one of all the things he talked about was the critical spirit. Because if you're constantly criticizing, like that story I read, and you're tearing somebody down, the end result's not going to be good. And in that story I read, it was not. I mean, the daughter ended up promiscuous and on drugs, and because the father kept telling her she was worthless. That's a tough one, and that's the one I think really hurts the most. Because again, gossip, if I'm gossiping about you, you may never know it. Unless somebody comes and tells you that, oh, by the way, at our prayer gathering, they said blah, blah, blah about you, and yeah. So, okay. So the next thing he goes into, let me just look up here, I want to see what, chapter 8. We're gonna now talk about self-control, envy, and jealousy. So some other good ones. Self-control is a good one. So how would you define self-control?
For me personally, I refrain from making a retort.
Okay.
Because if I do, I know that I would be, through the whole thing, I'd be emotional, but I would be probably using language I don't want, and I would be, I don't want to say boisterous, I would be adamant about it
Right.
and loud.
Yeah. Just-
And I don't want to go there.
Trying to defend yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Gary.
At about 10 years old, around the campfire, Good News Camp down in Quarryville, Miss Bennett looked at about 8 of us characters who were during the day doing some stuff that 8, 10-year-olds do, and she mentioned self-control. She said self-control and freedom are very closely related. You have to do what's right, not what you want.
Okay.
And that's, to me, that's always been the essence of, when you look at something and to make that decision, the impetus is, especially as a kid, do what feels good, do what's fun, do, as opposed to doing the right thing.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Good.
That makes me think what Gary's saying. I didn't really have an idea what I would say about, self-control and but Gary, I think, hit the nail right on the head. It's having the maturity to understand how you react, because we react. We have an emotional part of how we're put together, and we react to that. But having the maturity to be able to see what are the consequences on what your response is going to be, and then discipline yourself to have some control over that
Right.
response.
Right.
But I think understanding the consequences, many times I think, well, I could knock that guy's head off. but I know if I do that, the consequences are not gonna be good.
Right.
It's a mistake for me to just act and not have control over what I'm doing. And of course, that has a lot of implication, it can be just a response that is only birthed out of anger is
Right.
usually never good, you know.
Right.
And to be able to understand the consequences of that before you open your mouth.
Yeah.
I think that's a secret of self-control. It's just
Yeah.
having the ability to think about the consequences of what you may do.
Right.
And if your self-control is just, on the other hand, is in a positive way,
Yeah.
well, that's easy to let that out
Yeah.
because it has good consequences to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Does product advertising on TV, radio, wherever, preach self-control?
Yeah.
Opposite.
Yeah, exactly. It goes back to what you were both saying. It's, again, all about me
Mhm.
and what I can do and what I can get away with. So, I wrote something down here that was interesting. Solomon wrote a lot about self-control in Proverbs. Unfortunately, he did not follow his own advice. 700 wives and 300 concubines that all led him astray at the end and caused the nation of Israel to be split, because then his two sons were fighting over it and they ended up splitting the nation in two. So Solomon never practiced what he preached, so to speak. So the author defines self-control as governance or prudent control of one's desires, cravings, impulses, emotions, and passions. And that kind of fits in with what all three of you were saying. You were on the track of controlling your emotions and your impulses. You know, when somebody comes at you, your impulse is to come back and defend yourself. And so that's where he talks about that. So biblical self-control is dependent on the influence and enablement of the Holy Spirit. And I would say that is definitely correct. The Holy Spirit guides. Now, do we always pay attention to it? No. So yeah, it makes it difficult. So now he talked about 3 areas where Christians often fail in self-control. And the first one he talked about, which I thought was interesting, is eating and drinking. Tendency to continually give in to our desires for certain foods or drinks. It can lead to an unhealthy lifestyle. That one's difficult because we have certain foods that we like, and just because we like them doesn't mean that we're not practicing self-control if we're eating them. Or is he thinking of, well, I like potato chips, but do I eat too many?
A glutton.
What's that? Yeah.
A glutton.
Yeah. And I get the feeling that's where he was going, even though he didn't get there. But to me, that what he's talking about there flows right into gluttony. Are we overdoing it on certain things that can lead to an unhealthy lifestyle? There are people who have issues with alcohol that lead to definitely unhealthy situations if they are over-consuming. And in instances like that, it's probably better for that person not to consume it at all, because obviously if they start, the finish is not good. So that was eating and drinking. Temper is another one he talks about. Hot temper is a quick but intense burst of anger, often followed by a calm disposition, usually directed against anyone who displeases them. Okay, so now with these two things, now we're back to, it's all about me. And the selfishness of overeating, over drinking. Same thing with the temper, you know. Usually somebody's getting that angry because they're upset with something you did or didn't do that fits in with their agenda. Yeah. How would you handle somebody that has a quick temper or short fuse, so to speak? Talk about.
Run.
That's one way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sometimes in a situation like that, yeah, best thing, maybe just walk away. You know,
Yeah.
Just let the person cool down.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the more you try to directly engage with somebody who is just losing their temper,
Yeah.
they just get angrier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like pouring gas on a fire.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
You can't, because it kicks you.
Good, Gary.
And I think it's, most people know, when people get angry, once they cross that threshold and they get angry, then they start saying things, and all they want to do is hurt you and, you know,
Right.
say things in negative. And never have I ever heard of an argument getting to an anger where there was anything positive come out of it.
Right.
It's never solved anything. If anything, it always makes it worse.
Yeah.
Nothing ever positive comes out with once something reaches anger. Todd said it right. It's at that point, it's just disengage and walk away.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah. I'll give you an example from a job I had years ago. I used to contact people by phone, to marketing people generally, to sell them reprints of magazine articles for marketing. And I had dealt with this one person. They purchased, everything got shipped. They called me up and they were furious. So I just sat there with my headset on and let them vent and let them go. I didn't say a word. I let the person just get it all out. And then when they were done, I just very calmly said, okay, how can we fix this? Just like that, it diffused the whole situation. And then we had a very calm discussion on how we were going to go about fixing it and what I was going to do to fix it. And the conversation ended on a really good note. Sometimes that's the best thing to do when somebody's really that mad, is just let them get it all out. Get it all out, be done, and once they're done and they stop and they take a breath, then you can come back and say, okay, what can we do to fix this?
I think there's a difference between something that is directed at you personally and something that's directed at a situation you may be involved in, but not,
Right,
you don't have complete ownership.
right,
Because then, when that then you can do what you're talking about.
Right.
When somebody's directing a point blank, you're an idiot
right.
type of thing, and
Right.
it just explodes from there. The walking away thing is,
Yeah, yeah. And that may be the best, and then you can always circle back to it later
Sure.
with that person and say, okay, let's talk about this. What did I do that made you that angry, or whatever it might be,
Mhm.
that you were that upset with me, that we had that nasty conversation or whatever it might have been.
sure.
Oftentimes in those situations, those conversations are very one-sided, because the person who's angry is the one doing all the talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yes,
And sometimes that little bit of a period of just moving away from it, thinking about it or whatever.
right,
Even the person that was angry sometimes can come back and say, you know what, I had time to think about it. I'm
Right.
sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
yeah,
I think I did that with my wife. I had to go back and say that.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
We won't go.
I've done that with mine. Now, my wife will tell you it takes a lot to get me angry,
Yeah.
a lot. And many, many years ago, we were having a very vocal discussion, and I punched the kitchen cabinet. And at that point, I said, okay, I have to remove myself from this situation. And I got in my car, and drove around for 10 minutes, came back, and then we very calmly discussed and resolved the situation. But at that point, like you said, Gary, I knew I had to leave that situation. I had to flee because it was not good. Yeah.
But if you're the victim, sometimes walking away from an angry person can fuel their anger also.
It can, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And
So you have to, I think you have to know the person.
yeah. And at that point, in a situation like that, there's almost nothing you can do about that. If
You
you
just-
walk away and it even fuels their anger more, now that's on them. Now, you know, because now they're taking it even further, even though you've tried to diffuse the situation. They're not looking at that. They're saying, well, "Wait, I didn't get my way."
I'm not talking about my husband.
Or maybe you need a way to make your phone ring and say, oh, I gotta take this.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Have a secret button on your phone that you can press and the phone rings. Oh wait, I got to take this. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes walking away can make it worse, and at that point, there's nothing you can do. Now it's back to the other person.
You just wait.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you just have to wait it out and distance yourself from that person to give it enough time to wait it out that you can go back to them and very calmly say, okay, I know you were angry. Let's talk about this and try and resolve it and get it done. Yeah. And that's tough. It's tough to walk away. It's tough to not come back at the person and start a real argument, you know, and things get heated. So, yeah.
I think that one of the toughest things for me in my life is, I mean, I can usually handle if somebody's really ticked off, you know, I can defend myself and it gets to a point where, whatever. But what's really tough is when you see a wrong done to somebody you love,
Right.
and you're in a situation where you're in confrontation mode about that person. I mean, I'm thinking of my daughters when
Right.
we had a situation in a school, and that was really tough.
Right.
I mean, there was an argument that wasn't heated but very intense,
Right.
and and the ironic part, the bizarre part was, after an extended debate, we got up to leave with absolutely no resolution, and I started to walk to the door, and I turned around, and I looked at the principal and said, well, I said, if something isn't changed, Monday morning, I'm gonna retain a lawyer and put a retainer down on a lawyer, and you won't be talking to me anymore. It was amazing how all of a sudden,
Everything
that whole
changed.
thing changed.
Yeah.
It just went,
Mhm.
and there was a resolution that I was happy with. My daughters came home, and they said, oh, you know, such and such wife is in the class, and she's going to be there for the rest of the year. Good.
Yeah.
End of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But until, I mean, it's something that works in your
Mhm.
system when it's somebody that's real close to you, and that's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there. When there's a conflict like that and there's tempers and angers going on, is it a good thing to maybe get a third party involved? Someone
In this
who's-
case, the third party was a lawyer, but.
Yeah, but I mean, someone who's
Yeah.
outside the scope of what this argument
Yeah.
is.
Sure.
You know, in a church setting, if there's an argument between two people in the church, would it not be a good idea to take that argument to the pastor and have him as a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yes.
Mediator.
A mediator, an outside person who's not at all involved in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. that doesn't hurt. Now, the problem is, are both parties willing?
Yeah.
That's right, and it's a third party who's gonna say, so I don't know if I went in the middle of this. You know what I mean?
Well, there's that too,
The right
yeah.
person, too,
Yeah.
you have to be the right person.
Yeah.
That opens a door for a lot of different thought, you know,
Yeah.
before that can work.
Yeah, yeah. You're right, the third party person would have to be willing to do it.
Sure.
In most cases, I would say pastors are probably willing to mediate something like that, but somebody else that's not a pastor or in a position of authority, maybe not. Yeah, so, you know, I don't know that I'd want to get involved in the middle of a clash like that.
If Eddie gave Gary a black eye and Ken for $45, I don't wanna get in the middle of that.
Yes. Either that or you tell Evan he probably deserved it.
Whatever you say.
Okay, all right, so now we're gonna move on to the next thing he talks about with self-control, and that's finances. Indulging our desires for things whether we can afford them or not. Now, this goes back again to the advertising thing. It makes it look like you need that, you have to have that, whether or not you can afford it. And that's a problem. So,
Yeah.
here's a question. Is it wrong to buy things if you can afford them?
Depends why you buy them.
Okay?
If you really, really need it, I can a lot of times talk myself out. Do I need it? Do I really need it? Or is it something I just want?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be, if I wanted it, then it's prestige.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I can,
I think that's a part one. I think it's also part two is what you buy.
Okay,
well, yes.
yeah. He said it's what Steve said, but also what you buy. Yeah. So what are you buying and why are you buying it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This takes me back to the old saying of keeping up with the Joneses. You know,
What?
keeping up with the
The
Joneses. Mr. Jones buys a new car. Oh, well, now I gotta get a new car because I'm his neighbor and I need to keep up. Or whatever it might be, a car, whatever. And that's where people can get in trouble, you know, because you may or may not be able to afford that new car, but I gotta have it because he's got it. And that's a form of envy. So, you know, you were envious of what he got, so now I gotta get it to keep up. And that's where people get in trouble financially. And then they get themselves in a hole they can't dig out of. And this also goes back to what I said many weeks ago about finances and what people do with their money, and that Americans only contribute 2% of their income to any type of charitable or church organization. 2%. You know, all right, so what's going on with the other 98%? Are they using it for the right thing? Are they in a situation where they need that 98% just to survive, and some people do? You never know. But it becomes a problem. An example, the young lady that lives across the street from us, she and the guy she's living with are not married, but that's irrelevant. But her finances are a mess. And she came to Connie and said, "Can you help me?" So her and Connie sat down and figured out a budget for this young lady, and figured out that she can do it. She just has to stick to whatever the budget is. So, and then she came over yesterday and said she found another place to live, so she's gonna be moving out of where she is, which changed the budget a little bit, but she can still do it as long as she sticks to it. So there's a case, again, where who knows what she was using her money for at whatever point, but she's got charge cards that are, you know, almost maxed out and that type of thing. But you can do it. Connie and I were in that situation. We were heavily in debt, and we sat down with a friend, we figured it out, and now basically the only debt we have is our house, because we were able to figure it out. And so if she sticks to it, she'll do it. And that's where, again, that's where a lot of people get in trouble, because they think, well, I got this piece of plastic, I can go out and buy anything I want. Well, yeah, you can, but guess what? You have to pay it back. And the interest on that card is probably 25%. So not only are you paying back what you bought, but you're paying an additional 25% on top of that for the privilege of using that card. And that's kind of where we got in trouble, was with charge cards. And after we met with this person, we cut them all up and off we went and were able to get out of it. But most people aren't willing to do that. And I'm sure there's even Christians who are in this situation that, you know, they've maxed out a credit card, oftentimes for things they really don't need, but they wanted. And that becomes a problem now, because now what happens to your tithe to your church? In most cases, that's going to go down or stop completely. So yeah, it becomes a big problem. So,
I think there's even a better way that America's figured out what they need and what they don't need.
right.
It's called Amazon. I find all kinds of stuff I need. I didn't even know I needed it.
Yeah.
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 He's good at that too.
Is he? Yeah. Yeah. I try and stay off Amazon unless I absolutely need something that I know I can get from them, like toothbrush heads or vitamins or something. But yeah.
But I say that, and I think there's a word of truth to that. The credit card is one thing, you know, you can, but if you want to use your credit card, you got to leave the house, you got to go somewhere, and you got to use it.
Right.
Amazon has made it to you can sit in your underwear
Yeah.
watching, you know,
Yep.
TV,
Watching a
and
hockey
you,
game.
and
Yeah.
you can just make purchases.
Yeah.
You know, something, see something on TV. Oh man, I got to look that up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can. and still,
Yeah. And Amazon's not the only one. You can go on Walmart's website and do the same thing, or Target's, or whoever.
Amazon's, I think, the biggest. Amazon
Yeah.
probably has. I
Yeah.
can have it. I can have it probably sometimes tomorrow. I
Yes.
just hit this button. it'll
Yeah.
come tomorrow.
Yeah, you order it today, it comes tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a side note, interesting thing about Amazon that I heard on the radio the other day. They did not make a profit for the first 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah. They were trying to build their brand. Yeah. I heard that on the
21
radio.
years.
21 years. They did not make a profit.
They hang in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now look at them. Probably one of the biggest merchandisers in the world.
Yeah, it's our grandkids' fault.
Why is that?
Between Abby and I, oh, I'll bet you Jay would like this.
Yeah, and I mean, that comes back to the same thing with the self-control. And we do the same thing. We used to do the same thing with our grandkids. Oh, I know Haley would love this, you know. So we buy it, or, you know, yeah. She wants Lego things for Christmas, and we're looking at it, and we're like, okay, she wants the Eiffel Tower. That costs $600. No, I don't think so. You know,
But truthfully, going just speaking a little more, just not fun and games, but just
Right.
thinking about it. I think maybe somebody can help me out here. I think Pastor Kirk or somebody up front talked about one time about go through your house and start looking at all the stuff that you've got.
Yes, yes,
How much
yes.
you really need.
Yeah.
How much just abundance do we have that
Right.
we don't really need.
Right,
And I think it's become part of our culture to collect stuff.
right, right.
And stuff that we really don't need.
Yeah. One of the things that helped us with that was moving into an RV for 3.5 years.
That would help.
Now, we did have a storage unit that we kept some furniture and stuff, but living in the RV, our thing was, if something comes in, something has to go out,
Yeah.
because we don't have the space for it.
Hmm.
And that really helped us control
Very selective.
what do we really need and what do we not need. And, yeah, and that was, now, I don't suggest everybody go and live in an RV for 3.5 years. I mean, we loved it, we had a ball, but that really helped us to control what we actually need and what we don't need. Yeah, because I could get on Amazon and buy all kinds of stuff that I know is there that it would be cool to have, but do I really need it?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting concept on that. He goes a little further on envy, and he says two things that really kind of tempt us to envy, and that's envy with those with whom we most closely identify. So again, like a neighbor, a friend, get envious of something they have or whatever. We envy them in areas we value most, which I thought was interesting. Can somebody find Romans 1:29 and somebody find Galatians 5:21? These two verses talk a little bit about envy. Whenever somebody has
I
one.
got Galatians, I
Go
thought
ahead.
I'd go to that one.
No, go ahead.
I'll start with that one then, and envy. Let me start with 20.
Okay, yep.
Idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, destinations, fractions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God.
Okay. If somebody has Romans 1:29.
Being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that in those two verses, he kind of covers a lot of these respectable sins that we were talking about: envy, jealousy, gossip, self-control, different things, and how God views them. And it kind of, again, comes back to the point that even though we as humans may think, oh, well, these are not a big deal compared to murder or stealing or rape or whatever it might be, God doesn't look at it that way. They're all the same. And to him, they're all sin. So, yeah, that's interesting. He made a note in here that envy tends to lead to jealousy, which is an intolerance of rivalry. It's when we want to be the best above anyone else. It's a fear that someone is going to be better than us. Yeah. So, have you ever had anybody jealous of you or envious of you? What did you do with it?
I'm not sure.
Sometimes there's probably not much you can do about it. It's their issue.
I know when I was growing up, I was a kid, I had a cousin, him and I were close, whatever. When it came to sports, I was much better at it. And then he was jealous of me because I'm the one that always caught the balls and he couldn't get, or I'm the one that did this and that when I was young. And I know that, but I didn't know what to do with it. I
Right.
was just gonna be the best I could. I knew that bothered him,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I haven't really never really thought about it, but I think we all have, in our life, we have some things we're good at.
Right.
And we have friends that aren't good at it, and
Right.
they might feel a little, and I know there's people that I feel a little jealous about.
Right.
But they're really good at something, I wish I would be like that, why
Yeah.
can't I be like that?
Yeah.
But not jealous that it would, that it would, that I would be, that would cause a friction between
Right.
a relationship. It
Right.
wouldn't come to that elevation, but,
Right.
I think we all understand that, whether we're the one being jealous of somebody else or somebody jealous of us.
Right.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
we all are different. We have,
Yeah. And I think if somebody's jealous of us, there's nothing really we can do about that, because that's now their issue. That's an issue now where they're the one that has the problem with what you're doing that's better than them. Well, nothing I can do, you know? I just happen to be better at this than you, and yeah. So oftentimes, there's really nothing you can say to a person who's jealous of something you have or that you do. That's something that they have to work through themselves. Yeah.
I'd let them know that I have struggles, though, that there are things have happened in my life that my life isn't any more ideal than theirs.
Right.
That I hurt and
Yeah.
That's, at least in this one situation, that helped considerably.
Yeah.
And that this was, I was where I was at because of God and in my life, and
Yeah.
but that really I'm no different than
Yeah.
them. I have the same hurts and feelings and
Yeah.
problems
Yeah.
to overcome.
Yeah. And they're probably not looking at the other side of the coin, that there's probably something that they're better at than you are.
Yes.
It's all based on whatever gifts God gives us. I mean, Paul tells us we all have different gifts. Not everybody's a pastor, not everybody's a teacher, not everybody's a missionary. Everybody has different gifts. So your gift and my gift are different. That doesn't mean that we don't have, like you said, the same issues and the same problems. We're just gifted differently. But oftentimes people don't look at that. It's more of, well, I wish I could be like that, you know. Well, maybe you don't, because you don't know the problems that come with being a pastor. There's no way I would ever be jealous or envious of Kirk or Joe. No. I was on an elder board one time, and I will never do it again because of all the fighting, and it's like, it's not worth it. Sorry, that's not my gift. Go ahead, you guys can handle it.
It shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't, you're right, it shouldn't be that way, but it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not,
Yeah, I've been on the elder boards that weren't like that.
it's just, no, sorry. It's-
Our elder board doesn't fight at all.
Oh, okay. They just have disagreements.
There you go. There you go. You know, as far as the envy thing, that I'm thinking about, again, there's a difference between there should be a difference between when you're a kid and when you're older, as far as what trips your trigger or what you're envious of. But as a youngster, I remember a couple of times when there was some people in sports that I looked up to that made me feel less than. And they kind of rubbed it in my face. Now, fortunately, I had the wherewithal to kind of dig in and become better.
Right.
But still, there was a hurt there.
Yeah.
And so that I don't know whether you call that envy. I'm not sure where that falls. That I wish I was like that person who's doing a cool job at first base, and then they make a fool of you when you don't do quite a good job.
Yeah.
You know, is that envy? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Or it's just back to harsh words and insults, you know.
Yeah.
Just making fun of you because you didn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that. As a kid, I was good at baseball and football.
Mm-hmm.
Football mainly because, I I know, look at me now, you wouldn't think it. I was the fastest kid. So I was always the wide receiver because I could run by everybody. Well, when I was a kid, even in high school, I only weighed 140 pounds.
Mm.
Yeah. When I got married, I weighed 145 pounds. So I was the fastest kid. And same with baseball. If I got on base, I was the fastest kid. But basketball, I couldn't put that thing in the net if you handed it to me and I was standing right there.
Hmm.
But I didn't care but I had other people who were envious of the fact of my speed, that I could run. It never really developed in anything. They would always just try and catch me, especially after I caught a pass, and of course, I was a kid then, so I'd kind of wave the ball in their face and, keep going, the old taunting thing. But that's where things come in, where you're better at something and not so good at other things, and that's the way life is. And sometimes people don't realize that, and they think that they should be better, they should be good at everything, and that's never gonna happen. You're never gonna be good at everything. So, what you brought up now leads into the next thing he talks about, and that's competitiveness. The urge to always win or be the top person, whatever we do. Usually, this person is usually a sore loser. And I'm going to give you an example, because it just happened. The women's hockey team won the gold medal. When they were handing out, and Canada won the silver, when they were handing out the medals, if you looked at the faces of the Canadians as they were getting their medals, they were sore losers. I mean, they would barely shake hands with the person giving them the medals, and I mean, their faces were just like, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, yeah, they're kind of sore losers here. They're upset that they lost. I mean, it can be upset that you lost, but when somebody's giving you a medal, even though it's second place, and you almost don't even want to shake hands with the person giving it to you, that's not good. So, but here's a question. Is it wrong to be competitive?
Well, it depends what it does to you.
Yeah, there you go.
What do you say?
It all depends what it does to you. Like the hockey team. They were very competitive, but when it came down to it in the end, that kind of ruined everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to be competitive. But it depends what you do with it. I was part of the church's B team, softball team, the red team. We didn't win very many games. We were competitive, and the guys weren't happy when they lost. But once everybody came off the field after we lost, and I was very proud of them, that stayed on the field. When they came off, everything was fine. Most of the time, in some of the games we lost, we all knew that team was better than us, because they had played. I mean, this was our first year. They had played 1 or 2 years ahead of us. So we knew they were better. But in some of those games, we were very competitive. And like I said, the guys usually weren't happy they lost, but once they came off the field and we shook hands with the other team, it was all gone. And I was very happy to see that, because that can get to the point like the Canadian hockey team where you just mope and all that stuff. But I don't think it's wrong to be competitive. Here's something else that I brought out before. What are your thoughts that in a competition, everybody gets a prize?
It's not a competition.
Participation.
What's that?
That's how it is nowadays.
Yes, and that's why I brought it up. You're right.
Participation.
Yeah, and what you said, Gary, then it's not a competition. If everybody's gonna get a prize, but But the other thing that I look at is, that's not the way the world is. And I know it happens usually in like pee-wee leagues and stuff, that everybody gets a prize. But now you're not teaching the kids the way the world is. There's winners and there's losers. And that's the way it is. But if everybody gets a prize, well, now what? You know, Little League World Series, not everybody gets a prize. The only one that gets a prize is the one that wins. Or in the Olympics, the only ones that get the prizes are the ones that finish first, second, and third. Everybody else gets nothing. So I have a problem with that. Like, what was the word you said here about it? Participation. Participation award. Just because I participated, I get an award. No. That's not the way of life. And again, I think it teaches kids the wrong lesson going forward. Because
One thing is, the other side of that is that, the kids that really maybe did not deserve a reward, they get a reward anyway.
Right.
Just like the person that put the effort in and determination to win, but then that takes away from the winner.
yes,
You know,
Yeah.
then the prize isn't like,
Yeah.
well, it's no big deal, and everybody got one.
Yeah.
Everybody, no big deal.
Yeah.
And it should be a big deal.
Right.
Because it teaches us, you know, if we, like Kirk was talking about that woman that from, 2004, she was getting up, and she was going to the gym, and she was pushing, because she had a goal in mind, and she
Right.
wanted to be the best she could be.
right,
But if she'd have got that gold, and that's it, and so did this person, we're gonna give them a gold one and them a gold one too.
right,
And he didn't put, it
Yeah.
takes away from her.
yeah,
All that, you know, to be a winner, it costs you something.
Right.
Usually to get there.
right.
And to take that away, just by giving it to everybody, is just,
Yeah.
it's wrong.
Yeah, it just downgrades the effort of the ones who actually, like you said, put the time and effort into actually winning. Well, now, if I'm them, I'm thinking, well, what did I do all that for?
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? If I would've lost, I would've got a prize. You know, so yeah, it really detracts from the effort and everything that the winners put into it. So, and you know, I think about these Olympic people, how many thousands and thousands and thousands of hours do they put into their sport to go out there and do what they do?
They don't get there and grab the gold by accident.
Yeah,
That they
Yeah.
earn it.
yeah, they earn it, and that's the thing. If you're giving everybody a prize, you're not teaching them that they actually have to earn something. And then it's like, just like when you have a job and you get a salary, you have to earn that salary. They're not just gonna pay you to come in and sit there and do nothing, or give minimal effort. It's not gonna happen. And I think that, again, teaches the wrong thing, that now, because everybody gets a prize, now moving forward, they have that attitude that, well, I always got a prize, so I should get this because everybody gets one. Well, no, they don't. And it gives that, there's the word I'm looking for, that entitlement attitude. I am entitled to this, or I am entitled to that. And that's not the way it works. You're not gonna go into a business and tell them, well, I want $75,000 salary because I'm entitled to it. They're gonna look at you and say, there's the door. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't work that way. So, yeah, competitiveness is not a bad thing, as long as it doesn't get turned into envy or jealousy because they got something and you didn't, even though they put the effort into it and you didn't. So that's something we have to be careful of. Yeah, I'm a competitive guy. When I play games, I want to win. But when I lose, I don't just take the board and throw it out, throw it off the table. I could, but I don't.
One thing it brings up that has a lot of those things we talked about, and I think her name was it Nancy Kerrigan or something? Ice
Yes.
skater?
Yeah.
And then the jealousy and the.
Oh, yeah.
All of
I
it,
forgot
all
all
those
about
emotions
that
we're
one.
talking about.
Yeah.
Boy, brought into that. That
Yeah.
was probably a prime example
It
of
is,
how
yeah.
that destructive, all the stuff that we read in the Bible,
Yeah.
it's just kind of a little bit of a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
can be just devastating.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah, that she got whacked and couldn't skate.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, that's taking competitiveness way beyond what it should be. I mean, if you have to, now you're basically taking competitiveness into cheating. Now you're cheating
Mm-hmm.
because you just took out your rival so you could try and win. Funny thing is, she didn't win anyway, but
Even if she would have, what would it have been?
yeah, yeah.
How would you accept that and feel good about that?
Yeah, yeah. Did you want to say something, Gerald?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought I saw you put your finger up there. All right, well, I guess our time has expired. Thank you all for having me come in and work with you for 6 weeks. And
Are you done, Ray?
I
You're
think
not
so.
coming back next week?
Oh, am I still here next week? Oh, okay, never mind, I'll be back next
Do
week.
you have the materials?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't
It's a snow
done.
date, so.
Oh, yeah,
so
we
we're
haven't
gonna
even
have-
got into immorality and money and sports and stuff yet.
Oh, we
so-
gotta get into that.
Oh, what?
Oh, my. Gary, will you close us in prayer?
I would. Yeah. Heavenly Father, we just are so privileged to be able to come and be part of a community like Hope Community Church. And I'm just thankful that we have, right from our leaders, right down to even what Pastor Kirk talked about this morning, such a giving church in so many ways. I want to thank you for Ray and his teaching, and be thankful for our Lord and all that he did on the cross to pave a way for our eternity. And we just give everything in the name of Jesus. In his name, amen.
All right, everybody go home and get your snow shovels or snow blowers out.